You're right, guys. Shay here. Uneven bounce. Hope you guys are well. It's been quite a while for me to do a live stream, but yeah, I'm glad to be back with my very first guest on this channel, Uneven Bounce, Rajiv Radhakrishnan, to discuss the up-and-coming test series, imminent series between England and Sri Lanka starting tomorrow morning. Today's Wednesday, the 13th of January. So yeah, 14th. We've got 14th to 18th. We've got the first test match in Gaul. And then we've got back-to-back second test match, basically. On the 22nd, we've got the second test match. Just a short tour, the two test match series, and England are over to India. But here today, we have to talk about all things England and Sri Lanka. So yeah, we're going to talk about the teams and give our kind of take on the ground and our predictions. So first of all, Rajiv, how are you doing?
Yes, not too bad, thank you. Staying safe, as I'm hoping everyone else is in these current times. Tough, but it is what it is, and yeah, we have to obey the rules. So yeah.
Quite funny, isn't it? About a year ago, was that just I think 11 months ago? You and I met in Carluccio's in Pinner. I think I mentioned before, hasn't I, of that area? I mean, if I thought that 2 weeks later we'd be do everything via Zoom and StreamYard, etc. But anyway, so if we just kind of go into the teams for the first test. I'll just go into I should say the squads rather than teams. I'll just first of all go to the England squad we have here, because Sri Lanka's changed quite a bit. Obviously, England's remained the same, but we've got the squad was Joe Root, captain, Moeen Ali, James Anderson, Johnny Bairstow, Dominic Bess, Stuart Broad, Josh Butler, Zach Crawley, Sam Curran, Ben Folkes, Dan Lawrence, Jack Leach, Dom Sibley, Ollie Stone, Chris Wilkes, Mark Wood. Reserves, James Bracey, Mason Crane, Sakib Mahmood, Craig Overton, Matthew Parkinson, Ollie Robinson, Amir Verdi. It should be noted, obviously, that Moeen Ali contracted COVID-19, so he has to isolate for 10 days, is officially out of this match and possibly out the series. We've also got Chris Wilkes was obviously, I think he was carpooling with Moeen Ali, so he was unfortunately on the way to Birmingham Airport, so he's also out of the series. Also out of the test match anyway. He's not ruled out the second test just yet. Also, Ollie Pope, as I mentioned before, he actually is part of not officially part of the squad. He's there basically to get some fitness up ready for the India tour. But he played in the warm-up game and scored an unbeaten 58. So he's showing some form already. Obviously recovered from the shoulder injury that he occurred in the winter. But he's a part of, he's in the round at all. So it'll be interesting to see if anything happens with middle order batsmen in the first test, they flop. Then, Ollie Pope is there potentially to step in if they want to accelerate his kind of reinstruction back into the team. In terms of the reserves I mentioned before, Bracey, Crane, Sakib Mahmood, Overton, Parkinson, Robinson, and Verdi. There's talk, isn't there, about Mason Crane, Amir Verdi, or Matt Parkinson potentially coming in. Obviously now with Moeen Ali out of the side. But we can delve into that a little bit later. I just want to go into Sri Lanka's squad just for now. This has chopped and changed a lot, also because he's literally got back from South Africa. Was it 5 days ago? He got back on the 8th of January. So they're carrying a lot of injuries from that tour. The first and second test lineups were completely different. It was 4 or 5. I think it was 4 changes. So the squad they've announced officially now. I should bring it up here. So we've got the captain. I just want to apologise in advance if I butcher any names, but I will try my best. So we've got the captain, Dimuth Karatna, Kulsar Pereira, Dinesh Chandimal, Kulsar Mendes, Angela Matthews is back, Ashara Fernando, Nirishan Dikwella, Midal Banuka, Laduru Damani, Lasid Ambul Danea, Wanindu Hasaranga, Dilruwan Pereira, Saranga Lakmal, Lahiru Kamara, Vishwa Fernando, Dushmantha Chamira, Dasan Chanaka, Asita Fernando, Roshan Silva, Lakshan Sandakan, Nuwan Pradeep, and Rashan Mendes, the Australian all-rounder, is in the squad as well. And I hope you don't ask me to repeat any of those names anytime soon, there, Rajiv. I'm not sure how I did there, but anyway, the easiest round it off. But anyway, I hope the guys and you've so the squad, obviously you know the squad anyway, Rajiv, just for the viewers. We know who we're kind of dealing with in terms of Sri Lanka. What's your thoughts, really, Rajiv, on the squad that's been announced here for this test?
Yeah, but before I answer that, I just think that we should have an acknowledgement of acknowledge the players who are taking a risk of coming and playing, and we really applaud what they're doing in a cold winter for us in the Northern Hemisphere. the fact that they're playing Test cricket and we can watch it live is entertaining to us and gives us a bit of sunshine in what are dire times. So I think the players deserve a lot of recognition and thanks for giving us the fans a chance to see Test cricket. So that's why I just wanted to say that first. In terms of the squads, again, before I directly answer that question, I think the issue here, and I don't know if it's because of COVID, but there seems to be disorganization on both camps. The fact that you're talking about reserve players, I mean, that doesn't happen in cricket. We've never had this issue of reserves. You have maybe one or two on standby, but we've seem to have about 4 or 5 for England to have this. And again, with England, there's that organisation on that wicket-keeping role. I know we had this in the 1990s with Alex Stewart and Jack Russell, but those were for strategic reasons for why, they would drop Jack Russell at the end of a series and bring in Alex Stewart. There was a rationale behind it, which we could all understand. But what's happening here in the Test game for England is that there's a merry-go-round with who is going to keep wicket. You've got Bairstow there, you've got Folkes, and you've got Josh Buttler. I think we need to really sort this out and fix one wicketkeeper, play him at number 7. That's where the wicketkeeper should go. And then, pick the 4 bowlers behind him. I'm talking Test cricket. And also on top of that, with Buttler, I don't see why there is that much debate about him. He's 30. If I asked you how many Test centuries he has scored 2 in probably 50 Test matches. In first-class cricket, you're looking at 3 outside of the Test arena. So you're looking at 5 first-class centuries. He's averaging 33. I'm not complaining about his white ball skills. He's fine there. I think it's time we really moved on from Josh Buttler. And he seems to be, for me, picked on image and his skill level, which I'm not denying, but that is definitely more suited to the white ball. Having said that, Johnny Bairstow is only averaging 34. But he has got 7 Test centuries. And for me, I'm much more confident of him perhaps batting at number 3 or 4 than I am with Josh Buttler in any place in the order. And I'm going to say to give Ben Folkes the keeping gloves. He did a fantastic job 18 months ago when England were in Sri Lanka in December 2018. He's 100 on debut. And I just think there's a lot about Ben Folkes that we can utilise going forward. So that's that. With the England, and again, going back to that structure, if we go back to say how Australia dominated the cricket scene in the 1990s, they had a clear plan and a structure. They had Gilchrist batting at 7 in the Test, opening in the ODIs. Of course, if you've got an amazing team, it's a lot easier to have that kind of consistency, but we should be aiming to have that kind of structure both for England and Sri Lanka. They should be both thinking that. Going on to the Sri Lanka squad, again, it's annoying to see that the team has to be ratified by the Minister of Sports in Sri Lanka. I don't understand why the government needs to get involved in Sri Lankan cricket. They interfere. It's not their business. The sports has to be, completely separate from political interference. And the ICC have stipulated that before, but for some reason, the Sri Lankan squad can't be approved until the sports minister has said so. But that's another point. In terms of the Sri Lankan squad, I was looking again at the squad there and on the back of what's happened in South Africa. Excuse me. The player. Sorry, 1 second.
No.
Sorry about that. With the Sri Lanka squad, we start at the top of the order. We've got a lovely new captain, Dimuth Karunaratne. Now, he scored a century in South Africa, and that's great. I heard the other day that he reminds people of Graham Smith. I can sort of see that, very strong on the leg side, being a left-hander anyway. He's doing a good job at the top of the order, but for me, he's averaging late 30s, and he's about early 30s now.
He's averaging 37.
He's averaging 37, yeah.
37, yeah.
Now, I know that batting averages have come down in the last 10 to 15 years. In the early 2000s, everyone was averaging 50, and if you weren't going to get into the side. And I know nowadays there's only probably 4 people averaging 50: Steve Smith, Joe Root, Virat Kohli, and Kenny Williamson.
Yeah.
So they're the only 4 who are consistently near that 50 mark. So I'm aware that. Sorry.
Baba Azam as well.
Sorry.
We've got a Will Tarrant on the channel.
Sure.
Little plug for Voss Water there was his comments for your quick swig of the water there, Rajiv. Little plug for Voss Water.
Yeah. But yeah, if he's the captain and he's batting at the top of the order, you're expecting it to be a bit more mid-40s. I'm hoping he's coming up on that upward trajectory. And then we've got Matthews coming in. Again, he's averaging 45, which is very, very good. But because there isn't much around that, we need people like Matthews and now Chandimal is also, who's averaging 41. We need them to be scoring, as Graham Gooch would say, daddy hundreds. Getting to these 80s and 90s are all very well and good. No one's going to turn their nose up at that. But because of the state of the Sri Lankan batting order, they have to be getting up to 150, etc. And that means batting time, which we'll come back to in a second. And then Kushal Mendis, he's not young anymore. I remember when he came onto the scene about 5 years ago. I saw him in England when Sri Lanka toured in 2016. Everyone was talking about this great guy, Kushal Mendis. He got 3 ducks in South Africa, and he's averaging 35. And he's probably got about 6 or 7 centuries. He's becoming almost like, not to that same extent of a Hick or a Ramprakash, but it's more like a Carl Hooper. Like they're getting these pretty little scores of 30s and 40s, but these aren't going to win the games. So I think with the Sri Lankan squad, in terms of that batting order, there's going to be a heavy reliance on Matthews, and thankfully he's back. But before I go on to that batting, though, I'm a bit concerned with having someone like Matthews in the side, who, even though he chose to resign as captain, having someone of his stature in the side could diminish what Dimuth is trying to achieve and undermine him. Not purposely, I'm not saying Matthews would do that, of course not. But we have to remember this is Dimuth's side now, and he has to lead from the front, and that means opening the batting, captaining, and scoring heavily. That kind of thought process has to be put in there, that we need to be that Sri Lanka need to be batting time and go back to that more traditional way of playing cricket, sort of avoiding that sort of T20 50 over kind of, hit and blast like Kusal Perera might do. The way he bats like Jayasuriya, anything width, he just uses his bottom hand and he scoops it up for 6. It's entertaining, but what their tactics for me would be to wear England down in the field, i.e. bat time. England aren't used to fielding in those conditions, and Sri Lankan conditions to play cricket and are probably the worst in the world, the humidity, etc. So they have to bat time, bat first, and in Gaul you should bat first, and just play time and tire the fielders out for a good 2 days. And that's the way they do it. But they're not going to do it if you're going to bat like Kusal Perera and try and score a 50 in the first 7 overs. It doesn't work like that. So I really want that shift going back to good, traditional, honest Test cricket. And that sort of brings me onto the bowlers that Sri Lanka have. They've got this lovely new left-arm spinner, and me being a left-arm spinner, obviously enjoy to watch. He's got a classical action, very orthodox. There's nothing mystery about him. There's no Murali about him. And, he pitches it on off and it's trying to turn to leg. He's got a good arm ball. And the variations will develop as he gets older. But I think, is he going to get you 20 wickets or, apply a fair proportion? Is that bowling department going to do that? I don't think.
Sorry, are you referring to Mbuldenaya here, or is it?
Yes, I didn't mention his name. Yes, Mbuldenaya, the young left arm spinner.
Yeah.
Is he going to help you get 20 wickets? He'll get you maybe 5 per match, which is a good start. But I think that the bowling, as Sri Lanka's bowling has always been generally weak since Murali and Vas retired, and Malinga retired far too early, is that the only way they can do it is pile on the runs and then put England under pressure in their second and if following on third innings. That's the only plan that they really have, and hoping that they would fall under the pressure of a huge scoreboard pressure. Because I can't see the Sri Lankan bowlers taking 20 wickets, and this is the only way that could assist them in taking those 20 wickets, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good segue into actually the makeup of the sides. I mean, if we look at actually quick info, kind of the predictions for the 11s, we start with Sri Lanka, which discuss them now. So Karatna opening the batting with Costa Pereira, Costa Mendes or Damani. I mean, Damani's average is, I think, somewhere around 22, which is appalling, really, for a Test match number 3. I think it's actually better at home, but yeah, he's either between him or Costa Mendes, they're saying here. Dinesh Chandimal, Angela Matthews, Dick Vela is also seen as captain. Sorry, as keeper. Darshan Shinaka, the right arm, medium pace all rounder. Winindo Hasaranga, which I want to touch upon a bit later. Dilruwan Pereira, the kind of old time now. I think he's 38 years old now. The off spinner who played in the last tour, England last tour. Lassid and Buldanaya, obviously we've covered him. And then Saranga Latmal is really the number 1 seamer. If he's not available, then Vishwa Fernando, the left armer, who played in 2 Test matches against South Africa, who quit himself quite well, actually, because it was a difficult tour for them. Obviously, they're getting pulled from pillar to post and so many injuries, but Fernando quit himself quite well, took some wickets in the Joburg Test match. Now, that team to me seems quite formidable. I think we look at the middle order, that kind of engine room of the Marnie at 3. I mean, listen, Costa Pereira, I had to go with him, actually. He actually blocked me on Instagram because I had to go with him, because I was quite appalled, actually, as into Turing its first innings wicket off of Ian Mulder. I thought it was disgraceful for opening batsman to bat that way. He was blazing it for about 30 odd he made for about 3 balls, and just a waft outside off stump. You know, I just, you know, I'm not trying to be too much show my age here, but you know, this needs a bit of a application to opening batting and test matches, especially if you're away from home against a potent attack that South Africa possessed, and to bat that way, it might come off, it might not come off. That's the thing with him. Obviously, he did a couple of years ago in Durban, but other times you can get out for 0 like he did in the second test against Lungi Ngidi, bowled him for 0. You know, so it can go either way. We've got a good comment coming through there, so we'll get to that in a second. But I just want to talk a little bit about Angela Matthews returning. You've also got Karatna opening the batting, and then you have Chandimal back in the team as well. He missed second test against South Africa. Now those 3 have very formidable records in goal, which I think is important to mention here. Sri Lanka are extremely potent in goal. They've won 7 out of the last 10 Test matches in goal, and they wasn't playing minnows. They were playing Pakistan, India, England, and Australia, and they've won 7 out of 10. Actually, India might not be there in that last 10 matches, but New Zealand definitely were. Obviously, they were there 18 months ago. They're very, very good in goal, and as we know, both Test matches, because of COVID, they've both been played in goal. So we'll get to, again, the conditions, but if you look at the records of these players, if we look at the 11, as I said before, we look at of that kind of like middle order of, let's say it's going to be Damani, Chandimal, Matthews. They got very good. Well, Chandimal and Matthews got very good records in particular. Matthews averaging 47 in goal. Karatna's averaging 51. So whilst his 37 average is career average, he does very well in goal. So they are a different animal to what we've seen over the past 3 weeks in South Africa. I actually think they're going to be, a real handful. We'll get to our predictions later. If we go to Tush's comment here, Rajiv, it's directed at you. Tush, we're Ratna. Rajiv, thinking of the English pace attack, would you say Stuart Broad is the best bowler of his generation? And then, Will's jumping in as well, saying, is Jimmy the generation above and Joffa the new generation, or all in together?
Yeah, there's a few questions in there. I think with Jimmy Anderson and Stuart Broad, I think they're trying to manage the players before the next Ashes contest, which is in 12 months' time. So, whether they play together is another thing. But with Anderson and Broad, between the two of them, who is the better bowler? I mean, Broad's a little bit younger, but they're both fantastic bowlers. It's hard to differentiate. I think they come together as a package, which they have done for the last 10 years. Jimmy Anderson swings the ball round corners. He's deadly on it when the conditions suit him. And Broad, he can hit the deck hard, probably more suited to the oval pitches, the Perth pitches. He has that extra pace, and being 4 years younger, that obviously he's still got it. Is Jofra Archer one for the future? He's 26, 27 now. I can't say, because, and the reason I can't say is that in the last 35 years that I've been watching cricket, we've all said, oh, this bowler's going to be the next one, this one's going to be the next both, and this one's going to be the next Willis. And until it happened with Anderson and Broad, probably in about the mid 2000s, early 2000s, waited 20, 30 years for that. They're the only two, and they came together at the same time, which is even great, even better. I mean, Jeffrey Archer's got pace, no one's denying that. But whether he can maintain that level of consistency and learn new skills like the way Anderson has done as he's evolved as a bowler, 150 test matches. He's 38, he's my age, more or less. It's incredible. But it comes to be seen.
I mean, I think to say this, I mean, obviously, to answer Tush's question, the best bowler of his generation is not Jofra Archer, in my opinion. Yeah. His generation would be, obviously, yeah, I mean, obviously, it's the generation after Steve Harmison and Andrew Flintoff. So, obviously, you think about first person comes to mind, Jimmy Anderson is as part of his generation. You think Tim Bresnan came in at similar times to him, you know, kind of 2010s, 2012s. You know, these guys, Stephen Finn. I mean, for me, my personal opinion, Tush, is that Jimmy Anderson's the best bowler that England have had for baseball for 20 years. But I think Jofra Archer is a phenomenal talent. I've said that many a time. He's 25, he's 26 in April. But he's, I mean, you talk about 600 wickets and 500 wickets. You're talking about, I don't think people really appreciate Broad Anderson until they've gone. I think you do appreciate him now, but you're not going to see an English opening combination that achieves gets so many wickets in such a long career as these two have had, possibly in our lifetime. We're both the same age, both 38, you know, so I don't think we're going to potentially see it again, Rajiv, to be completely honest.
Sorry, I'm 41, by the way.
Yeah, oh, no, yeah. So I think it's, I think Archer is the next generation. I think he will lead things forward. Him, Sam Curran. Chris Wilkes is part of Anderson's generation. But he's only really excelling now, isn't he? So yeah, I mean,
no, I would say Wilkes. Yeah, he's about 7 years younger than Jimmy, but he's going to be that third seamer always. I get the feeling who can bat, be like those number eights who can hold a bat and sort of be the night watchman if necessary, and be that third seamer. I don't know if Wilkes will ever be an opening bowler, but yeah. I think when Jimmy goes, Chris Wilkes is a wonderfully rock solid seam position, absolutely rock solid. It's it's extremely good, and he's 31. He's 32 in March. He is the next experienced ball that we have once Anderson goes, probably, which is going to be the next 12 to 18 months. I think he's going to try and drag it out past the Ashes and probably say sayonara. But then I think Chris Wilkes is got potential to set a new ball. I think that I do. Potentially with Broad and Archer and maybe Ollie Stone coming through. But anyway, I don't want to digress too much. We have some really good questions coming in though now. Will's coming with another question. Where is England's next world-class spinner going to come from? Can we develop one within the county setup, or do we need to find someone with a British grandmother? So yeah, a little cheeky there. But listen, I think if we can kind of use that question as a way to kind of move on to the spin bowling of both sides, Rajiv, so we concentrate on that. I mean, do you want to kind of talk about the English bowling combination they'll be using for the first test? Yeah, I think Dom Bess has come on really well. I saw him make his debut in 2018 at Lords, if I remember correctly. And it was 2018. And he also scored some runs, and he does give the ball a good tweak. And he got a 5-4 against South Africa just before COVID. And I think this guy's got a future. He's very young, 22, 23. And what we need to do is just stick with him and give him a license. And when I say give him a license, that means don't take him off when he gets hit for 2 sixes in an over. The captain has to show faith and tell him that he's a spinner, which means you have to spin the ball. Don't go defensive. Give the ball a good rip, which he is doing at the moment. And don't be scared. Spinners generally do average higher. And it's so important here that the captain has to show faith, because there's a culture in England where if the spinner gets hit for 10 runs in an over, the captain loses patience, takes him off, and doesn't give that care that's necessary. If you look at how Shane Warne started off, he got carted by India in 1992 Sydney. Ravi Shastri completely destroyed him. But Alan Border took him under his wing, nurtured him, and gave him the confidence. And how did he do that? In a very tight match in Sri Lanka in 1992 August, Sri Lanka were cruising, and he trusted Shane Warne, and he gave the ball to, and Shane Warne's career took off from that moment. So I hope Joe Root gives that confidence there. We've also got a reserve, which I hate to use that word reserve, in Mason Crane. He played a little bit a few years ago, and then they dropped him, which, that's the most, this picking and dropping is just not good. And we've got Verdi in the background as well. And I saw him playing for Surrey. He's got a very nice action, a good off spinner. But for the first test, we don't want the ball spinning both ways. Both ways. We don't want the ball spinning in the same way. So let's have Jack Leach as the left arm spinner. Let's have Dom Bess to start off with. Both of them spinning it in different directions. Let them bowl in tandem. And while it's true that you should say let them build up pressure on the batsman, that to me also gives a negative feeling to the bowler, negative message to the bowler, saying if you're building up pressure, that means you want to be defensive, just contain them. No, you want to go there and attack them. This is not ODI cricket. You should be looking and attacking Angelo Matthews, Dinesh Karuratne, and don't go into the mindset thinking, oh, you know what, Asian batsmen at home, they can play spin in their sleep. Well, okay, that may be true. Shane Warne's record, for example, in Asia isn't that great, but don't have that mindset. Go in there and attack from the off. And Joe Root has to show patience.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the captain is going to be important, how he perseveres with likes Dominic Best. I mean, Dominic Best didn't have a very good summer at all, as we know. But this is his first time on a subcontinent. First time at him and Leach we paired together as well. Obviously, they don't show extremely well from the Somerset days. Obviously, Best has now gone to Yorkshire. But just kind of feeding because we've got some more questions coming through. So Tush mentions about, I'll just quickly answer this one before I go to the next question from Tush. But he's mentioned bowlers come in pairs like Ambrose and Walsh. Once Jimmy and Broad are gone, does England really have a pair? In fact, I want to show this question come up. Yes, if Tush here now. Look at that. Yeah, so bowlers come in pairs like Ambrose and Walsh. Once Jimmy and Broad are gone, does England really have a pair? Anyone's partner Jofra? And then the next question would be this one. Sorry, in fact, I should just quickly answer that question. For me, Tush, obviously, in Mark Wood, Jofra Archer has found a partner in crime at white ball level. I think they are definitely the first choice white ball pairing for England in white ball cricket, T20s and ODIs. Unfortunately, Mark Wood's made a paper mache at times, isn't he? Especially with a longer format. If he was able to kind of keep his rickety legs from falling over every time, then I think he could have been Jofra's kind of opening ball partner. But I think you said he'd been a really good foil, or Broad would have been a really good foil for Archer, in my opinion. But I just think Broad's going to be 35 this year. It's probably a little bit, probably getting a bit too old. He might be able to hang on for another 2 years. Obviously, he's still a fit guy, but I think maybe Chris Wokes potentially has still got quite a bit of mileage in the legs, and he could be the one who could pair with Jofra Archer, I think, and take a new ball for the next 3 to 4 years. He said he's only 32 almost. So, yeah. Next question from Tush, I'll highlight it here. It's a key question, and I totally agree with this question. Key question, does England go with 2 or 3 spinners for the first test? That's a great question. Thank you, Tush. Yeah. For me, I think, obviously, everyone thought that 3 spinners would be the way forward for England. Obviously, Moeen Ali was destined to play. We thought coming at 7. He obviously got COVID. He's not playing. And then they seem reluctant to go with one of the reserves from Matt Parkinson, Mason Crane, Ahmed Verdi. You cited Verdi, very good spinner, did well last year, did even better the year before. I think he took 14 wickets in the match at Trent Bridge against Nottinghamshire. Very talented spinner. Young guy like Mason Crane. Obviously, Mason Crane's tasted Test cricket for England, but I think Mason Crane's probably is still not there yet. He did okay in the Bob Willis Trophy, but I still don't think he's really ready for Test cricket. And I think from what Root said in the recent comments is that they're going to go with 3 seamers. So Corrin at 7, because obviously Wilkes is not playing. He's still isolated, or he's actually come out of isolation, but he's not match fit. So Corrin's going to bat at 7, looks like. Going to go with probably Mark Wood and one of Anderson or Broad. That's a question as well. I'm not sure what they're going to do with that. And then obviously go with Leach and Best. Leach and Best are shoo-ins. We know that. Sam Curran plays at 7, guaranteed. He well lost time as well. Made runs, made 60 odd. I think in the goal test match, in fact. So he's ready to go at 7. Has a bit of depth to the batting as well. I trust him with a bat more than Moeen Ali, to be honest. But anyway, and then you go with Mark Wood for that raw pace if you need a breakthrough, if the game's lagging. And then you go with either Anderson or Broad. That's the question. Personally, judging from last summer, you picked Stuart Broad. Stuart Broad a phenomenal summer. You've fantastic something, didn't he? So you probably go with Broad. So Tush, to answer your question, I think they'll go with 2 spinners. They'll judge on the wicket tomorrow, but I almost certainly will go with 2 spinners, Curran, Wood, and probably Broad. And Joe Root will be given the task of being the 3rd spinner. And even Dan Lawrence can bowl spin. It's a bit of an odd action, but he can bowl a bit of spin as well. He's going to make his debut tomorrow at 5. So I think they'll go Tush with the 2 spinners and Root bowling, could be between 10 and 15 overs, potentially, quite a few, in each innings. And what do you think, Rajiv? What would you do?
Well, for me, the reason we would pick 3 seamers is because faster bowlers need more of a rest. At the end of the day, in cricket, you can only have 2 people bowling at the same time. So for me, having a third, when you have 2 seamers bowling at the same time, you need that extra seamer purely for rest reasons. When you have 2 spinners, they don't need that kind of rest. So by having 3 spinners, it's just, for me, wasting a spot. You need 6 batsmen because, people come in and bat. With bowlers, you only have 2 at the same time. And spinners don't need a rest. So I don't see the point in playing 3 spinners purely for that reason. Because for that reason. So I would go with the two shoo-ins, as you said, Bess and Leach. Going to the debate about Broad and Anderson or picking one of them, I'll just reiterate what Nazir Hussain said when England played the West Indies in the summer. And he said they dropped Stuart Broad for the first test. Now, would you have done that if that was the first morning of an Ashes series? Would you have dropped Stuart Broad? You're probably not. So if we're not doing it for Australia, why are we doing it for the West Indies? It's still a test match. Why are we not giving that same respect? So for me, yes, I understand that the schedule is very heavy at the moment. Well, it's not that heavy at the moment, but generally in the last few years, the schedule is very heavy. But if you want to win the test match and you want to beat Sri Lanka and you want to give them the same respect that you give every other team, Australia, West Indies, Pakistan, then you would pick your winning combination, which is Broad and Anderson. And obviously, on top of that, then you layer it and tailor it to the conditions, whether you pick a 3rd seamer or 2 spinners. So for Sri Lanka, 2 and 2. That's for me. And the thing with Sam Curran is him at batting at 7. I'm not sure what his role is. In the same way with Moeen Ali, it's a bit of a confusion through no fault of their own. But for Sam Curran, I just don't see him as an opening bowler. He does score runs and has helped England out, no doubt about it. But we need to identify what exactly his purpose is in the side. He's definitely got one, but I can't see him as an opening bowler to partner Joffrey Archer. I don't think he's got the pace. So we stick him at 7. The 2nd seamer or 3rd seamer, along with the 2 spinners. So we're playing maybe 5 bowlers. I don't know, but we need to give him a role and make him feel important because he's a very fine cricketer.
I mean, he obviously played in 2018. He's been in Sri Lanka before, so obviously he has experience there, unlike a lot of the players that are in this team tomorrow. We'll get to the batting in a bit, but he averaged 37 with the bat, so he made 60 odd. I think it was in goal, and then obviously he took. I don't think he did that so well with the ball. I just have the stats in front of me now. So yeah, he was just 2 matches, just a 1 wicket. So he actually bowled 15 overs across the 2 games. Obviously, because that series was dominated by spin. I mean, over 100 wickets were taken the whole 3 test matches by spinners. It was a crazy amount, obviously, of always bowled by spin. So that's why he gets bowled so much. But I actually like Sam Curran. I think he's a dynamic player. I mean, he's young. He's 20. I think he's 20. I think 23 years old. Yeah, 22, 23 years old. I think in June he's turns 23. But I actually like him there. I think he's going to be a mainstay in the side eventually, with all these guys at the wrong side of 30. And I think he will have balance. Obviously, left arm over the wicket as well. Obviously in the scuff marks for the likes of Don Bess as well. So I think he has a role to play. I would be very hesitant to go in with 4 bowlers and bring another batsman. I think that's risky, personally. I think they should be. I think it should be go. I think Curran gives that balance. I think if they're going to be preparing, Mickey Arthur said they're going to be pairing spinning wickets. I feel that's probably the best opportunity to win games. And I think also the worry about the lack of fitness in the pace bowlers from the South Africa tour. Lakmal, they're trying to drag back, but the reality is not really fit. He's their best seamer. Otherwise, Vishwa Fernando plays, so he quits himself well, but is he good enough to take 20 wickets, help the team get 20 wickets? Their best opportunity is through their spinners. So Mbuldenaya, Dilwan Pereira, and Hasaranga. I think that's the best opportunity for them to win this series through the 3 spin bowlers. Sandakan, I'm not sure will start. I think he's going to be. He might come into the second test, but I don't think he'll play tomorrow. I think Sri Lanka will go in 3 with 3 spinners rather than 2, like England, but more due to a lack of options, where England have a plethora of options with the seamers. I think that's pretty much, the makeup of the bowling attacks, in my opinion, anyway. I think Hasaranga is a really fine player. I'm really quite impressed with him. As obviously he's players trading white ball cricket, but he took a 4 for at Centurion on a really kind of, I won't say a seamer's paradise, but really hard work for spinners. And Hasaranga really quit himself well there. And he also made runs. He made a 50. I think he averages 40 in first-class cricket. He's a very dynamic player, Hasaranga, at 7, off of Dick Vella. And I think I could see him actually batting hard at the order. But I like Hasaranga. He's young. He's 23 years old. And Mbuldenaya is 24. You know, the future's bright for Sri Lanka in terms of spin stocks after, obviously, Harith has retired. But if you go to the batting, in fact, we've got to have a question here from Tush, so I'll just quickly highlight it. Sri Lanka tour is the warm-up for India. Is this where England gives everyone a chance to experiment, especially with Sri Lanka's current performance? Good time gamble and take some risks. Do you want to answer that, Rajiv?
Sure. I think that goes back to, again, what Nazir Hussain was saying is why do we use other nations to practice against the bigger ones? Why should Sri Lanka be seen as an add-on or a aperitif to the tour to India? Sri Lanka are a test team. They are a World Cup winning side. They have produced some fabulous players. Why should Sri Lanka consider themselves as a warm-up? And why should England not respect them by playing their, best team? The time to experiment, as far as I'm concerned, are in the tour games in county cricket with A tours. But when it gets to a test match, it's a test match, whether it's Afghanistan, Bangladesh, or Australia. The records will count. So to answer this question, no, they shouldn't experiment. The experimenting should have been done beforehand. Now, I'm aware that these days we don't get the tour games, we don't get as many A games, we don't get as much time in the county game. I get that, but we still should show the respect for every nation.
Fair enough. I think I would quickly say, in terms of experimenting, I think they actually plan to. This is obviously part of the World Test Championship. I think the management, the think tank, think they can win the series in Sri Lanka. And almost like India is more of a throwaway series. If they lose in India, it's like, well, that's India. You don't really win there. I mean, only won in 12-13, but it's very rare you win India, right? Yeah. Teams have more success. I mean, the last tour of Sri Lanka was New Zealand. They drew. They battered Sri Lanka in the second test match. I think they're looking to win this series, if anything, judging from the whole Folkes and Butler scenario, because Ed Smith has said they're looking at it in blocks of 3. 4 tests in India, 2 in Sri Lanka, but 6 tests, but 3 and 3 split. They look to play Folkes in India and Butler here. But surely if you're experimenting, you would play Butler in India and Folkes here. Folkes did obviously manage series last time. So surely he should be playing. So I think they're looking to win this series. They're going for a win. And they might experiment more in the India series, because not a throwaway series. Obviously, it's a high-profile series in India, of course. But I think England are like, well, if we get by with a 2-0 loss in 4 test matches, get maybe a rained off draw and scrape a draw, I think they'll go home okay. But I think they'll be more disappointed if they don't come away with a series victory, especially considering they won 2 years ago. Tush is gives another question. Thank you, Tush, for these questions are really good. In the heat in Sri Lanka, it was more of a statement. In the heat in Sri Lanka, you need 5 frontline bowlers, so Curran is needed for the balance, especially with Stokes not being there. I agree. I think I think it's Marcus Trescothick who said in the recent Wisdom podcast about the humidity in Sri Lanka. Now, I've never been. Obviously, Rajiv, you obviously from there, so you know the humidity. It looks very, very difficult to play Test match cricket in that kind of condition, especially if you're from England. So I actually agree with Tosh. I mean, that's another reason why you need 5 bowlers.
And when I said about Curran, I meant that's fine him batting at 7 if he's considered one of the bowlers. Didn't want. That's what I meant. So as a third seamer, but I wouldn't have him as one of the openings. So yeah.
If we move on to the batsmen and the batting lineups, if we just said before, just kind of go through the predicted line.
I've lost you.
Anyway, you've got Karatna, Mendes / Damani. Are you there?
Yeah, I've got you. You froze for a second.
Oh, no worries. I'm saying Karatna, Kusal Pereira, Kulsa Mendes or Damani, Dinesh Chandimal, Angela Matthews, Dig Vela, and Shanaka at 7. Are you happy with that kind of that batting lineup for this Test match?
Yes, I'm interested to know where Angela Matthews. I think Angela Matthews maybe have to go a bit higher up. He's batting at what, 5?
Let's say, I think we're saying it probably will come in at 5.
For me,
Chandimal and Matthews swap.
I would say so. Angelo Matthews for me is the best batsman in that side, and therefore he needs to be batting at 3. The best batsman generally, not always, bats at 3. That's not always the case, but for these conditions, for the purpose of this series, it's a statement. I am number 3, which has got a lot of stature attached to that position. Go out there. You're an ex-captain. You're an experienced player. You've got time now to score runs and make it your own and bat the whole day. And we'll go, if you go to Kusal Pereira opening, he bats very much like Jayasuriya. He's modelled his action on him. His batting starts on it. People think, Jayasuriya was wham bam everything. In ODI, yes, he did do that, and he averaged over 30 over 400 matches, which is an amazing achievement. When it came to Test cricket, Jayasuriya was still a solid Test batsman. He managed to get 340. He managed to get a couple of double hundreds. He got a 199. This is not a guy who goes out there in a Test match and starts to whack it everywhere. He has got a solid defensive technique. So Kusal Pereira, he's copied everything about Jayasuriya. Maybe he should start copying him on this bits, which is, be a proper established Test batsman, and then do your crazy stuff in the ODI. No one's complaining about that, which is exactly what Jayasuriya did. He averaged 40 in Test cricket in a time when 40 meant something. So he should really sort of model that. Dimmoth at the top of the order, I think he's great. I think he's maturing now. He's going to have the best years now, I think. Late 30s, he got that lovely 100. And
excellent record there in goal, 51 averaging a goal. Excellent average. So, yeah, very formidable.
Yep. And then, to reiterate what Graham Gooch said, it's up to the top 3 to now start getting daddy hundreds. That's what wins matches. And to bat time. There's no rush in this series. There really is no rush. It's 5 days. Generally, these days, Test matches are ending in 4 days, 3.5. So time is not an issue.
Absolutely, yeah. If you go then into the England batting lineups, this is a lot of obviously interesting questions get thrown up here, Rajiv. So Dom Sibley, Zach Crawley, Johnny Bairstow, Joe Root at 4, Debiton, Dan Lawrence at 5, Josh Butler at 6, Sam Curran at 7. We've obviously talked about Sam Curran. So the top 6 are Sibley, Crawley, Bairstow, Root, Lawrence, and Butler. What's your thoughts on that?
I'll start from the back. I don't think Butler should be there. I know people will be angry about what I've just said. He got 150 in his last Test match. Okay, he did.
Average 42 last time in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, but over 2 Test series, an average of 42. Okay, fine. He averages 33, and after that Ashes series, after the World Cup in 2019, his stats in the Ashes before. You just got to look at it. This is a guy who's batting in the top 5, top 6, who has scored 2 Test centuries in the last 6 years of a career. Okay, he came back properly in 2018. I get that. It's not good enough. He's picked, I'm sorry to say this, on image, and take that image to the ODI. It's fine because he has the results and he has the stats to back it up in the ODIs. I would remove Butler at 6. We can come back to that. Obviously, with no Stokes, it makes it easier, makes it more difficult rather. Joe Root, no issue there. And I know Joe Root has said that he doesn't like to bat at 3, and he's at 4 here. Fine. I think he should still take that responsibility and be open to that, but we'll come back to that. And then Zach Crawley, yeah, he had that huge score, 267.
Yeah.
We really hope that he will kick on and make more runs there. And, he got that 267 and he actually threw his wicket away because he was trying to get extra runs, which is fine. So, he was close to a triple century for a 22-year-old. That is something amazing. But we just don't want him to be that one-hit wonder. And Johnny Bairstow, I'm glad he's back in. Even though he's only averaging 1 run more than Butler, I still think there's more to him. I would have folks coming in to replace Butler to keep wicket at 6. I know Bairstow likes his keeping, and his keeping's probably helped his batting. That is true. But for the moment, he can come back in just as a specialist batsman. And Joe Root. The issue with Joe Root, and it's sort of a very harsh critic of him, but if you look at his stats, compared to, say, someone like Steve Smith, if you look at the conversion rate, Steve Smith, 27 centuries and about 27 50s. It's about 50-50, his conversion rate. You look at Joe Root, he's got about 40 50s and about, say, 17 centuries off the top of my head. And out of those 40 50s, I would say about 20, it's that many, are between 80 and 100, and that's frustrating because this guy who's done a great job as England captain, he's a gentleman of the sport. We want him now to really, I go back to that traditional method of batting, of test batting, daddy hundreds. Think about how Graham Gooch approached his career towards the end. How Graham Gooch set out to sit and stand there and bat the whole day, the powers of concentration that Graham Gooch used to score all those centuries at the top of the order. And remember what Graham Gooch said, you're at the top of the order, you've got all the time in the world, you can direct the game. And as a captain, he has that extra responsibility. So I hope he can start making, 80s and 90s are great, but let's start getting him into the 180s now.
So yeah, we actually got a retort to your comments on Butler. We've got Ubaid here. Thank you, Ubaid, for your comment. Butler's century against Pakistan means you get more chances.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I respectfully disagree with what you were saying there, Rajiv, about Butler. I mean, obviously, it's my opinion, isn't it? But for me, Josh Butler proved himself. I was at the start of the summer thinking that Josh Butler shouldn't really be there anymore. He's had some opportunities like Johnny Bairstow before him, and Ben Foakes should have got the gloves back. But the reality was Butler, he kept getting chance to chance, and it was almost coming a bit of parody. I remember George Dobell from Quick Info was mocking the fact that he must have some kind of naked pictures of Ed Smith to keep getting called into the team every single time. But he proved it himself in that Pakistan series. The 100's absolutely right. He's averaged 42 as well in the 3 Test match series in Sri Lanka 2 years ago. He's obviously done well. I know obviously South Africa was a bad tour for him, but the reality was he has found form now. And I think he very much more deserves that spot rather than Johnny Bairstow. If you're going to bring Foakes in, which I'm not against at all, I'm sorry for anyway, I like Foakes. Obviously, he was man of the series in the last tour of Sri Lanka. For me, he would come in for Bairstow. I push Root to 3. I don't think Foakes number 3. Push Root to 3. Everyone goes up one spot. And then Foakes comes in at 5. Dan Lawrence goes in at 4. I think that would be the way. If I was going to drop anyone for Ben Foakes, it'd be Johnny Bairstow. I know Bairstow played very well. He's got 100 in the last series against Sri Lanka, but this last test century, I know he's got 7 centuries, but his last one was 2 and a bit years ago, Rajiv. And he's done nothing since. This is a guy, I did a video today on Instagram, criticising this guy. He's been bowled 28.3% of his dismissals are basically been bowled. Been bowled more than 1 in 4 times. That's shocking stat. An absolutely shocking stat. Any quality batsman, especially a number 3 batsman, does not get bowled more than 1 in 4 times. It just doesn't happen. But his high bat lift, the fact he falls across the stumps occasionally. He has a poor technique, in my opinion. I think unfortunately, there's a really good info article in CricViz a couple of years ago. The fact that he sacrificed his test game for the ODI arena. That's why he's excelled so much in white ball cricket, and his test performances have gone down, down, down. He hasn't been able to keep it at parity. One's gone up, one's gone down. That's the unfortunate occurrence with Johnny Bairstow. But he's been given another lifeline through another opportunity. But I said, Ollie Pope is waiting there. He's not officially in the squad. But to me, if Bairstow flops hard in this first test and Pope does well again the next, he did obviously score runs in the warm-up, I'd get Ollie Pope in. I think Ollie Pope's a wonderful player. And he's destined to bat 3 for England anyway. Not Johnny Bairstow. To me, he's never a test match number 3, Johnny Bairstow. Not in a month of Sundays. I don't know what the hell he's doing there, to be honest. I just don't get why he bats it. I just don't see who in the right mind would think Johnny Bairstow is a test match number 3. He's averaging 34 in 70 test matches. Majority of his runs are scored at 6 and 7. If you compare him with Matt Pryor, which people have done, Matt Pryor's averaged 41 at the same batting the same spots. I can't. My friend Simon Scott, if you watch this video, you know what I'm talking about. He would. The amount of times me and him would just laugh about Johnny Bairstow. Every time England are in a pickle, Johnny Bairstow is the last one who'll drag you out of it. The last one. He will fuck you over even more. Just seeing Johnny Bairstow with his stumps behind him flailing, bales splattered everywhere. It's a joke. It's etched in the memory when I think of Johnny Bairstow. I think of him being bold. I just think of that. Anyway, I'll give him an opportunity because he did well 2 years ago. But to me, the guy's 32 in September. It's got to be last chance saloon. And the fact he had the audacity to come up with these comments last week saying nothing to prove. Like foot you have. You've got fucking everything to prove. You're averaging 34, mate. You're plundering runs in white ball cricket. You go out to Yorkshire and you smash runs. But when it comes to you putting on an England white shirt, you don't do anything hardly. You don't do shit. You haven't done for a long time. And that's anyway. Yeah, I don't mind Johnny Bairstow. I appreciate his story behind it and what he's gone through. I understand, but I think
you're probably being a little bit harsh on him. But
this is why I'm not even bounce. I'll give it to you raw. I'll come at the neck. I'll come at you. You know, I've always been. That's what I'm about, really. But anyway, sorry, I'm just digressing now. I'm ranting on. So you can cut me off, mate. We've actually got a little point anyway from Tush. Tush is coming on the question. You can feel free to answer it.
Sure.
Rajiv.
Sorry, do you want me to? Yeah, go.
I'll read it, but Sri Lanka pitches are slower. We'll take turn. Who are the best spin playing batsmen for England to combat this? The ball won't come onto the bat for opening batsman either. Something to be aware of. I'll just quickly say that Johnny Bairstow does average 44 against spin in the last 4 or 5 years. So I will give him that. Tush is interjected quite well there. Basically shut me up by saying that in a way, because Johnny Bairstow is a very, very good player of spin. That I will hands up. Fine.
I think what they should consider here is the sweep shot on these spinning, spicy pitches, and with that left arm spinner going to be Mbudoya. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. With him playing hopefully a key role, because I'm looking forward to seeing him bowl. I think they will need to bring in that sweep shot quite a bit, and I think Joe Root, who has covered all bases when it comes to batsmanship, he is, I reckon, the best player. He can also be a good spinner as well when he's bowling, to combat the spin threat that is Sri Lanka. And remember, the spin threat that is Sri Lanka is not as potent as it used to be in the days of Murali and Herath. Herath was a fine left-arm spinner and very underrated. So I think, Joe Root there, who can manoeuvre the ball. He'll take the quick singles, and hopefully others will follow him when he starts sweeping, which I think is really important for the batsman.
I think it's if they employ the sweep shots, obviously, like they did that 8 years ago in India. They swept the way to victory, wasn't it? Against India. That was the holy grail of victories, Test series victories. But for me, obviously, I look at Johnny Bairstow, obviously a good player of spin. Zach Crawley also is a very good player of spin. He played Yasir Shah very well last year in the Pakistan series. Simply can hunker down. Joe Root's a good player. I've not seen enough of Dan Lawrence, to be completely honest, against spin to judge. Josh Butler, to me, at test level, hasn't really shown he's that capable against spin bowling. So I think there is a little bit of chinks in that top order. I think fitness is going to be a big part of it as well, with this whole thing to bat long, to get score daddy hundreds, as Rajiv's been mentioning. I think it's really important. And in terms of, application attrition, I think someone like Dominic Sibley, he's the one probably you look to who's going to bat all day, could play the Alistair Cut type innings. So because the ball, as Tush rightly says, the ball won't come on the bat for being batsman. You have to really apply yourself. And, I look at him, Dominic Sibley, is the one guy who can really knuckle down and bat all day if needs be. I mean, I think he's lost, it's quite well documented, he lost 12 kgs going into last summer. So he's a lot more fit and ready for the kind of heat that he'll face in Sri Lanka. Anyway, so yeah, we've kind of touched upon the batting lineups as well. I guess we're a little bit at odds. 6 and 7 is a little bit. We're a bit of disagreement there, I think, there, Rajiv, in terms of who should be batting for England. I think obviously it's surrounding the two Bs and Butler and Bairstow, but I think obviously both will play tomorrow, and we'll just get to see over the next 5 days who's right, basically, who should have played.
Exactly, I will text you tomorrow morning at 4. Well, I'll start at 4 a.m., but let's see what Bairstow can do. It'll be Bairstow versus Butler. That should be a good battle. Because
obviously, Ben Foakes is in the wings, isn't he? Waiting in the wings. So I think if he either slip up, then obviously he's ready to go. If we then obviously talk about the teams there. I said, I mean, is anyone? Obviously we kind of touched upon Sri Lanka, haven't we? Really batting as well. You said, I think we said obviously the core batsmen there in Karatna and Matthews and Chatham, they've got very good records in goal. So I expect them to be quite formidable as well. If we go to the pitch, I mean, the forecast for goal actually is not great. It's actually rain off and on the next 5 days, unfortunately. Go from thundery showers to light showers, which I think will obviously affect the results of this match quite heavily. If you were to give a prediction, though, obviously knowing that as well, that rain's going to be a rain-affected match, who would you kind of go with for this test series? Is it repeat or revenge, Rajiv?
It's very difficult to predict with the state of where the sides are and the fact that it's just a 2-test series, which is another annoying point, which is outside the scope of this conversation. It is so difficult. I mean, there's a part of me that's saying, Jimmy Adams is going to be assisted. Gaul obviously is on the coast, right next to the sea, and then that breeze comes in, and then he can start swinging the ball. I'm not convinced that Sri Lankan batsmen know how to handle swing that effectively. But then, as the day wears on, the Gaul pitch is known to get better for batting. But then it's also known to turn square later on in the game. So there's something in it for everyone. But I still haven't answered your question of what I think the result is, and I just don't know, because the sides are, to me, there's so much disorganization on both sides. And if I just go on about it, one of the indicative examples of that disorganization is you look at the England squad and you look at the Sri Lankan squad. And I don't know if this is a sign of the times or what, that the amount of wicket keepers that are on both sides.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I've heard one of the commentators, England commentators, saying, we're blessed with the amount of wicket keepers England have got. But to me, the fact that there's so many suggests to me that the standard of keeping has dropped, which will spin off onto another conversation, which is outside the scope of this call. But the batting positions, what order, where is the keeper going to go, where's this? It's on both sides. It's just disorganized. And I go back to the yardstick, which is Australia in the 1990s and early 2000s and the West Indies in the 1980s. That's the yardstick that we should be every team should be looking to. Not say copy, but a yardstick, a reference point. There was no confusion. It was Ian Healy. That was it. Ian Healy finished. It was Adam Gilchrist. They batted at 7. That's what they did. West Indies. It was Jeff Dujon. There was no confusion. Dujon wasn't batting at 3 at 1.8. He was batting at 7. The template, 4 fast bowlers, Australia, 3 and Shane 1. It was a consistent, solid thing. And there was no confusion. We knew who the captain was. We knew who the vice captain is. Again, if you look at these sides, how many captains are in the Sri Lankan side? How many of them captained? You look at the England side, have they nominated a vice captain? I might have got this wrong. Without Ben Stokes there, is there a vice captain? Do we know who that is?
Good question, actually. I'm not sure there is, actually, to be honest. I mean, I guess I'd look to Stuart Broad probably is the vice captain, for this test series. But then the thing is, he's not even guaranteed to play. That's the thing.
And they made Butler vice captain in 2018 when, frankly, I don't think you can make Butler vice captain. I don't know. It's just this lack of ownership, lack of direction, lack of management, and yet the backroom staff, there's about 1 million of them. Let's focus on the on-field people who are actually going out there, and let's get some kind of coordination there. It's disorganized on both sides, and that's not just because of COVID.
Yeah, I mean, I think England, if anything, a bit more settled. I think because obviously of what happened in South Africa, Sri Lanka had so many injuries, and it was just ridiculous how many injuries they had in that tour. And I think actually brought up the fact of, you know, debutants should be substitutes to be able to play, an active role in the game, not just be substitute fielders. Because basically Sri Lanka had 9 players in that second innings. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But anyway, that's again, as you would say, it's really another conversation for another day. But Sri Lanka had obviously the injuries of key players. Dian Jaya Silva, who was on 79, got injured. Obviously Latma wasn't there, got injured. Disappointing. Obviously Chanamal mid-run's first test got injured. So I think there's more question marks over them than England. England are fairly. I mean, England obviously missing Geoff Archer, rested him. Ben Stokes, rested him because obviously passing his father. I completely understand. He's been rested as well. Ollie Pope is injured, and there is fragility in that top order. But I think there's still a lot of familiar names. Sibley's there, Root is there, Corran's there. Wilkes in around the squad. Broad's there, Jimmy's there. You've got Leach and Bess. It's still a very familiar team. It's not that experienced, to be fair, but there's still a lot of the kind of household names. So I do think they're more settled going into that. I mean, like I said before as well, Sri Lanka touched down on the 8th of January, 5 days ago from South Africa. Now, obviously, similar kind of climate. I mean, not as humid, especially in the high veld they play in South Africa. Much drier there, but it's still, they play, but with a disjointed squad, like walking wounded. On the flip side of that, they have game time in their legs as opposed to England. They haven't played a test match for 5 months, 4 months. You see, so it kind of balances out a little bit. You could say that Sri Lanka holding the edge in that respect, but I think on paper England are a slightly better side. But to basically go to my prediction, I think that Sri Lanka are going to win this series. Yeah, no. I think this match is going to be a draw. I think because the thundery showers are predicted, the forecast is correct. I think that this will be a drawn match. And I think Sri Lanka might nick it 1-0. I think Sri Lanka might nick it. The batting lineup worries me a little bit. And I'm not sure how Dominic Bess is going to do, obviously, in subcontinental conditions as an off spinner. I think they might go after him. As we saw, he had a poor summer. I think he averaged over 50 or something in the summer, just gone. Jack Leach, they both played 10 test matches. Jack Leach averaging 29, Best averaging over 40.
But I think going back to your point about the county stats, I always take those with a pinch of salt because
they're test stats. They're test stats. They're both test stats.
No, I know the one you said now is test stats. So two things. Going back to the first point about him having a bad county season, fair enough. I'll take that. And then going back to the performance at the international level, his first few matches would have been a bit disastrous, just like the way Jimmy Anderson's were. So if you look at maybe the last few matches, Dom Best with that fifer, the way he bowled
matches, he was poor, wasn't he? West Indies and Pakistan, he got battered last year. He was very expensive. I'm not sure that's average, but I think it was over 50 in the 6 test matches.
I think he's shown potential with that, and I think we just need to go back to that point, which is just give them that protection and that chance and that extended run. And yeah, he didn't have a great year last year, first class or international, fine. But we must give him a chance. That's what I think. But if you think Sri Lanka, and you're concerned that the Sri Lankan batsman will go after him. But the point is, he's never bowled in the subcontinent. Let's give him that chance.
Yeah. I mean, let's see if he can perform. I mean, the one thing I think that they are going for themselves, England, they bat fairly deep. I mean, Dominic Best can also hold a bat. He's not actually shown that much at the moment in England colours, but he can actually hold a bat as well. And he'll probably come at 8. And then you have the, Wood, Broad, Anderson. And Broad can score a few as well, as can Wood, to be honest. Mm-hmm. That might help him out. But I just feel Sri Lanka might have the edge. I think that 3 spin attack as opposed to 2. I know England probably are looking to play only 2 spinners, but I just feel like they're better off going with 3. I just don't think they want to. I don't think they trust I think out of the three of Parkinson, Crane, and Verdi's your man to come in. But I think if they bring Verdi in and they drop a seamer, you've got to drop one of Wood or Broad Anderson. I don't think they want. I think they've really got a better chance because, as Root said, the sticky wicket potentially because the weather conditions at the moment a little bit sticky, so it might actually be more conducive to seam. I just don't know which. I just think the makeup of the sides. I think in the second test is going to see Sri Lanka over the line, but we'll see. As I said before, Sri Lankan batsmen, whilst their records are not great, when he come to goal, Clark Kent turns to Superman. Do you know what I mean? Because they just change, the stats go up, they rocket up, they rocket. I mean, I think Karatna's 37 average in overall, 51 in goal.
Yeah, no, sure.
Matthew's just similar, he's at 48, I think he's averaging 45, but it's 48 in goal. Even Damani's got average 22, I think he's averaging mid-30s, 37 in goal or 35 in goal. They do, and Chanimal's improving as well all the time. So, and Hasaranga, said before, averaging 40 at first class level. The batting is there for them to pile on big runs to allow the spinners to bowl in and out twice, I think. So yeah, just before we wrap up, I said, Tush is put another question. Thank you, Tush. Will the toss be the decider? Nobody wants to bat in the fourth innings, chasing 175 to 200. Do you want to answer that, Rajiv?
Yeah, I mean, chasing in the fourth innings is difficult in any kind of condition or context. I think with Gaul, you really need to be scoring to be safe. 300 is not a bad score in those conditions. So yeah, win toss and bat first, so you don't have to have that concern about chasing in the fourth innings. That would probably be it. Yeah. So the toss is very important. You want to be batting first at Gaul, make first use of that pitch.
I mean, they're predicting, thundery showers. I think they said it's going to make it harder to bat on as the game goes on, as you mentioned before. I think of England, I'd probably I'd get pad up first if I was England. I didn't see the wicket though tomorrow, really, to be honest with you, before I make a full decision, because if there is cloud cover and Jimmy's playing, for example, then you might want to have a go at these guys first up. And they might bat themselves to chase a low score, potentially. I just need to see the wicket. I think a lot will depend on really the weather conditions tomorrow morning, how Root goes. I don't think it's been decided yet. We're definitely going to bat. We're definitely going to bowl. I think it will depend tomorrow. I think we'll probably, and to see what happens, really, after the toss. But that's really it. So, okay, so you're sticking on the fence there, Rajiv, with your prediction. You're not sure?
No, I'm not sure. I really just cannot tell you. I can't say.
Absolutely 50-50, not even 51-49 in one team. If you had to hang your hat on
it. Listening to what you've said now about the settlement of the side, I'll base it on that. And yeah, England do appear to be slightly more. I still think there's disorganisation on both sides. But given the history of the injuries that Sri Lanka have recently had, the outside stuff with Sri Lankan cricket generally, political interference, etc. I would say maybe England have the edge just based on a sounder, more solid base. So maybe 1-0. Yeah.
I don't know why. I mean, I agree with that. I've got a sneaky feeling that Sri Lanka are going to pull it off. I think but we'll see. I think it's actually a very good series ahead. I think it's gone on the radar a little bit. Obviously, it's been shadowed very massively by the India-Australia series, which is a phenomenal series at the moment. It's an incredible series out there. That's incredible. I mean, I can't wait for Brisbane. This starting on Friday. It can be amazing. And I'm really rooting for India, to be honest, because I think if they pull that off, that is undoubtedly one of the best test away wins that I've seen for the last 20 years. I think
without Kohli. So
without a team, they've literally lost pretty much the entire team. If they can pull this off with it's a genuine second string bowling attack.
Yeah,
that to me, it's eclipses England and Australia 2010-11. It might even eclipse Australia winning India in 2004, England India 2012-13, England winning Sri Lanka Pakistan 2000-2001. I think if they win this series, phenomenal. Yeah. Just be a bit, And so England, Sri Lanka, a little bit under the radar. But I think we're in for a really good two test matches. Yeah, so I'm gonna leave it there, guys. I just want to say thank you so much to Will and Tush in particular here, just with the comments. Yeah, I mean, I think Will jumped off. He had to leave, so he'll catch up later. But just and obviously both of you guys, Tosh, thanks so much. All your questions have really good. It really, for me, enriched the kind of the conversation. I felt having these questions coming as well, and really good points you made as well, Tosh. And Bay, thank you so much as well for your comments about Butler there as well. So yeah, a couple of people have stuck around for the entire hour and 9 minutes so far. So thank you so much. And obviously, last but definitely not least, Rajiv, thank you so much for coming back on the channel. Nice. Really enjoyed that. It's never you and me. It's never like a typical I hate to say this, but a bit of just simple boring analysis. We always seem to kind of duck and weave and go into different kind of areas, and and I really enjoy that about our conversations. It's not just stats. We kind of underlying context to what's going on, as you pointed out before. So I really appreciate Rajiv coming back on. I'm hoping you'll be back in 5 days' time. Maybe sooner, who knows, for the post-match kind of reaction. I'd love to do that, and then I'd like to get you back on for second test preview as well, if you're about. So yeah, yeah, we'll sort that out. Yeah, it's cool. All right, guys, thank you so much. Yeah, I've got a lot more coming up. Obviously with Rajiv, hopefully as well with this test series. Got some more videos I've filmed. I'm actually to cut them and get them out there. So do follow me if you've not subscribed to the channel. I'd appreciate if you do sub. Tush, obviously you've seen a bit about me today, so if you've not subscribed, please do. And yeah, it'd be great. And yeah, just we'll see you guys in a maximum of 5 days' time, maybe sooner.
Brilliant.
Cool. Thanks so much. Cheers. Take care.
Bye.